Muy bien, hola a todos, estudiantes. Aquí estamos en la semana número 5, creo. Sí, semana 5. La lección, el capítulo número 3 en Panorama, hablando de la familia. So today we're going to look at different vocabulary words and then again some pronunciation tips that will help you as you work through this chapter in Panorama. Family is one of my favorite subjects. So let's look at some basic vocabulary. There is a lot in this chapter, a lot of vocabulary. There are a lot of things that are used to describe family and talk about family. And they're all terms you're going to have to know as you're talking to people. So we're going to go through this list together, and I'll give you some tips on some things that I found, some commonalities, and some ways that you can remember some of these different things. So we're going to go through pronunciation first. I'll repeat it, have you repeat it after me. I'll pause, and then I'll say it in English. And again, pause for you to say the word in Spanish again, okay? Así que clases repitan. Los abuelos. Grandparents. El bisabuelo. Great grandfather. La bisabuela. Great grandmother. El gemelo. A twin. La gemela. A girl twin. El hermanastro, a stepbrother. La hermanastra, stepsister. El hijastro, a stepson. La hijastra, a stepdaughter. La madrastra, stepmother. El medio hermano, a half brother. La media hermana, half sister. El padrastro, stepfather. Los padres, parents. Los parientes, relatives. El cuñado, the brother-in-law. La cuñada, sister-in-law. La nuera, daughter-in-law. El suegro, father-in-law. La suegra, mother-in-law. El yerno, son-in-law. El amigo, la amiga, okay, friends. El apellido, last name. La gente, people. El muchacho, the boy. La muchacha, the girl. El niño, little boy, child. La niña, a little girl, child. El novio, the boyfriend. La novia, girlfriend. La persona, person. Now the next ones are just some careers. El artista, artist who's a male. La artista, artist who's a female. El ingeniero, engineer who's a male. La ingeniera, engineer who's a female. El doctor, male doctor. La doctora, female doctor. El médico, a male physician or doctor. La médica, a female physician or doctor. El periodista, a newspaper journalist who's a male. La periodista, a newspaper person, journalist who's a female. El programador. Computer programmer, who's a male. La programadora. A computer programmer who's a female. Okay, so again, a lot of vocabulary, but a lot of them are, you've heard a lot of these words before. You can build on, once you know that hermano is brother, then medio hermano is half. So there are some things here for you to build on. Just look for patterns. Let me give you some tips here. We said abuelo is grandfather and bisabuelo is great grandfather. So the word bis is a part of word for great, but it doesn't work in any other context. It literally only works with these family relations. So you couldn't say, oh, okay, bis. That doesn't work like how great that is. It only works for going with these family words. And then you may have noticed the suffix on the end of many of these, astro or astra for step. So you would take astro and add it to the end of the word. So padre would be father, padrasto would be stepfather, madre, madrasta, hermano, hermanastro, hermana, hermanastra, hijo, hijastro, hija, hijastra, etc. So that's again a pattern, right? So you learn hermano, and then you learn astro, but then all of a sudden now you know 4 different words because you can put those together. Medio, media means half, and so again that's a pronoun, or excuse me, it's an adjective, so it's going to match the noun. So it's medio hermano, media hermana. Novia means girlfriend, but also is a word for bride. And so you'll see, like if you look at a bridal shop in Spanish, they'll say tienda de novias, and you'll see like bride and groom, novio and novia. So obviously we're also talking about when you were 12 and you had a boyfriend or girlfriend, but the same word is also used for groom and bride. Padre means parent, is father, but padres, plural, it goes back to our very first lesson on gender. So that just becomes your parents. So it doesn't imply to male fathers, and it could be a same gender or a different gender set of parents. So padres, the same. And again, that same rule of one male with 399 females, the word becomes masculine. And then parientes is not, it looks like parents, but it's not, it's just any relatives. The singular for that is pariente, and so you get it's mi hermana es mi pariente, right? My sister is my relative. So it can be just like we're having a relative vacation with all my relatives, or this person, my relative. Oh, I know her, she's my relative. The word is pariente or parientes. Suegro is father-in-law, suegra is mother-in-law, suegros are my in-laws. So I'm going to my in-laws' house. You just use, again, suegros, and it doesn't make any implication on gender. Hijo means son. Hijos means children. So it's the same rule on gender and plurality. So I could say, yo tengo 7 hijos. I have 7 children. And then I could clarify, yo tengo 3 hijos muchachos y 4 hijas mujeres o muchachas. So you can, but I have 7, if I say yo tengo 7 hijos, I have 7, doesn't mean I have 7 sons. It means I have 7 children. And a lot of times they'll break that down. If you hear somebody say, yo tengo 3 hijos, un varón y 2 mujeres, 1 male and 2 female. But just know that, again, that's a plurality and gender. Same thing with muchacho and chico. So muchacho means boy, chico, boy, but muchachos is not gender specific. It's a gender neutral, just the kids, the boys, the kids in the group. And then nuera is daughter-in-law, and there is no such word as nuero. Yerno is a word for son-in-law, and I don't know why. I think they're both Arabic words actually, but there's no rule there. So it's just 2 words to memorize. So you'll get a giggle from somebody if you try to make nuera into nuero and yerno into yerna. That's just a cute little Spanish mistake. So some words to memorize there on your family. And during this week, actually the next 2 weeks, we'll do several activities where you get a chance to use these words, because that's how you're going to master. Okay, some other vocabulary. These words are not, they're in the book scattered, but they're not in one place. So put them together for you. Mayor is older, comes from the same Latin root as major, right? So somebody who's major than you is older than you. And mayores, so you say, yo tengo un hermano mayor. I have an older brother. Yo tengo una hermana mayor. Yo tengo 2 hermanas mayores. Okay, so it becomes plural. It doesn't change for masculine and feminine, but it does for plurality. Menor, same word as minus, so something that's less than in age. Menor, yo tengo un hermano menor. Tengo dos hermanas menores. And then uncle and aunt, we're not on that list. So tío and tía, uncle and aunt. And then tíos would be my uncle and aunt together, right? So voy a la casa de mis tíos. I'm going to my aunt and uncle's house. So let's save a little bit of time there when you're speaking in Spanish. Same thing, primo, cousin, male, prima, female cousin, primos, just cousins, right? So that there's no gender implied, again, in that word primos. El bebé, la bebé, doesn't change, ends in E. Papa, papi, mama, mami, those are just common things. And just like here, you'll have, you call your grandparent probably something different than most of your other friends call your grandparents. The same thing. They're just little nicknames that people call their parents. My kids and my grandchildren call me papa. And then paterno comes from the Latin word for paternal, which means father's side, and materno also means mother's side. So that's useful in things like ella es mi abuela materna. She's my maternal grandmother, and that means that she's your mom's mom. She's the grandmother on your mom's side. So that's where that word comes in to be helpful. Paterno on your dad's side, or paternal. Materno, materna, maternos, maternas on your mom's side. Okay. Muy bien. This is in Panorama, just some other general basic words, as well as some other professions. We just went through some of these. I'll let you go through those. There's pronunciation on the Panorama website. So okay. Here we're going to do a little test, a little practice, not a test, sorry. Number 1 through 10. And you're going to go through, there's a description, and then you're going to match it with somebody on the right-hand side of who matches that description. So pause here, number 1 through 10, and just go through and match the description with what or who that person would be. And then come back, we'll look at it together. Okay, muy bien. Hope you paused long enough to get this done. So I'm going to read through the question, the number in Spanish, and then we'll look at the answer appropriately. Mi hermano programa las computadoras. Es programador. Número 2. Son los padres de mi esposo. Okay, so here's the wheel spinning, right? It's almost like doing math. Son los padres de mi esposo. Son mis suegros. So the parents of my spouse. I don't know if that word was in there. That word wasn't in the vocabulary, and I apologize. It should have been for Panorama. Esposo is the word for spouse, for husband. Esposa for wife, for female. And then if you say like ellos son esposos, they are spouses, they're husband and wife. So sorry, that would have been helpful to know. You probably figured that out because it looks like it. Número 3, son los hijos de mis tíos. So my uncle and aunt's kids, H, son mis primos. Número 4, mi tía trabaja en un hospital. Mi tía trabaja en un hospital. Ella es médica, ¿verdad? Número 5, es el hijo de mi madrastra y el hijastro de mi padre. So it's my stepmother's son and the stepson of my father. Letra B, es mi hermanastro. So that's your stepbrother, right? Your step-parent's child would be your stepbrother. Número 6 es el esposo de mi hija. L es mi yerno. That's the word for son-in-law. So my daughter's husband is my son-in-law. Número 7 es el hijo de mi hermana. Es el hijo de mi hermana. K es mi sobrino. Nephew. Número 8. Mi primo dibuja y pinta mucho y es artista. He draws and paints a lot. Número 9, mi hermanastra enseña en la universidad. My stepsister teaches in the university. Es profesora. Y número 10, mi padre trabaja con planos, with blueprints. Número 10, D es ingeniero. Okay, so again, this is a thinking through process, but the more that you practice and figure out these relationships, you're gonna be able to understand when somebody tells you that. What you don't want is someone to say, oh, sí, ella es mi prima. I'm going prima, ella. You just want to understand the concept. Prima just means is equivalent to the cousin in Spanish. That's the person's parents, person's uncle, aunt's child, family. Okay. All right. Aquí vamos a hacer lo mismo. There are all these words at the very top. Some of them fit into these 8 questions. So same thing. I want you to number your papers 1 through 8 or A through H, and then go through and do this little calculation and figure out which of these words. One of them does require 2 words, so give that a second thought, and pause and come back and we'll look at this one together, okay? All right, letra A. Él es el esposo de mi mamá, pero no es mi padre. Es el esposo de mi mamá, pero no es mi padre. He's my padrastro, my mom's husband, spouse, but he's not my father, he's my stepfather. Letra B, ella es la madre de mi esposo. La madre de mi esposo, my spouse's mother, is my suegra. Okay. Letra C, el esposo de mi hija, I think this is actually exactly from the other page. El esposo de mi hija es mi yerno. Letra D, yo tengo 19 años. Roberto tiene 16. Él es mi hermano menor. Okay, muy bien, my younger brother, my lesser brother. Letra E, ellos son los padres de mis padres. Los padres de mis padres son mis abuelos, ¿verdad? And so that, and again, that just is the generic term for my grandparents. So in this case, it's my parents' parents. You're talking about 4 potential people or more. There are steps, right? So those are just your grandparents. It's just that relationship. Letra F, ella es la madre de mi madre. Ella, ¿verdad? So it's female, la madre de mi madre, 2 palabras. Es mi abuela materna. And just because you have 2 abuelas, right? At least potentially you have 2 abuelas, so that clarifies which abuela it is. Letra G, él es el esposo de mi hermano. My brother's husband is my cuñado. Y letra H, ellas son las hijas de la hermana de mi papá. It's almost like you have to draw a whole little tree here and list all your family relatives. Las hijas de la hermana de mi papá. So my dad's sister's children are my primas, okay? Again, because it's ellas, we're only talking the female here. So even though primos is an option up there on top, the correct answer would be primas. If it were ellos son los hijos de la hermana de mi papá, then primos would be a correct response. But here, because we've specified they're female, we're looking at primas. Okay. Here are some tips for pronunciation, and this is the end of the lesson. We're trying to keep it short today. So let me give you, again, we've talked through all the vowels. If you need help, this page is in Panorama with some good recordings you can go back and listen to. But I want to back 2 things, diphthongs and linking. Diphthongs are when you combine 2 vowels together and they're pronounced as 1 syllable only. Okay. So if you look at those 3 words that are in the second line, ruido, ruido. So it's 2 syllables. It's not ruido, it's ruido. Parientes, not parientes, it's parientes, ye. The IE together make a ye sound. Each vowel is still pronounced. We said that from the very beginning. Each vowel always gets its name. It always gets its sound, but they're slurred together. And periodista, periodista. Linking is when you take the 2 vowel sounds that end and begin a word when they're similar and they come in together. So for example, la abuela, I mentioned this in a lesson a couple weeks ago. We don't typically pause a lot and say la abuela, we say la abuela. And if you listen, la abuela, you can hear that I flick that A twice, la abuela. So I wouldn't say la abuela, it's not like literally one word, but they're tied in together, la abuela. And you can read the description says they're pronounced like 1 long vowel. So not la abuela, it's la abuela. Mijo, and if you have friends who are particularly from Mexico, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba, they use this phrase a lot, ay, mijo, and that just means come on, my son, or mija, and they'll actually, when they're being cute, they'll just spell it M-I-J-A, skip the H and the other I, because that's how they pronounce it. So mi hijo, it would be awkward to say mi hijo. You're just going to slur the words together. Él es mi hijo, mi hijo. Ustedes son una clase excelente. Nacen una clase excelente. We're going to link those two E's. Una clase excelente. They're both in there, but they both get a little bit of extra time. Same thing with consonants we can link together when it's the same. Con Natalia. Not saying yo voy con Natalia. Yo voy con Natalia. Ellos son sus sobrinos. Ellos son sus sobrinos. Estas son las sillas. And then a consonant, the end of the word, es ingeniera. Sounds like you're saying all one word, es ingeniera. Mis abuelos, sus hijos. Mi hermano, su esposa, nuestro amigo, almost have that same diphthong thing. So that when you know this rule and you'll be aware of it, when you hear somebody say something that sounds like all one word, you'll realize, okay, they're just linking, listen for the sounds, and figure it out in your brain. I know when I first got down to South America, I'm like one whole sentence sounded like one word. They were speaking so fast and everything was just slurred in together. And it just takes some time to accustom your ear to be able to recognize the different sounds. So that's why we do this oral exercise. That's why you repeat. That's why you practice. Is so that you'll understand and you can be more familiar with the way people speak. So, all right, moving on. I know it was short, but a lot in there, a lot of vocabulary for you to look at and get going. We'll be using these to reinforce these concepts for the next 2 weeks. Thanks. Pasen un muy buen día. Have a good day.